Manyo Sharanya Karo.
Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nande Namataliko.
Radha Krishna Padara Bhajana Nandena Mattaliko.
Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghujugo Shri Jiva Gopalako.
Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghujugo Shri Jiva Gopalako.
Hare Krishna. So who'd like to read the translation, please? Narayan Prabhu, please.
Yes. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiv Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna.
Thank you very much. So this is a very important verse because here we get so much information packed into one incredibly valuable verse, and particularly the six Goswamis were studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles. So Sanatan, the very word Sanatan, means eternal. So religious principles of Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, or whatever else, these are temporary affairs. But the eternal religious principles, which one finds in the Shastras, in the scriptures, these are the ones that are meant for those who want to develop their eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And for this purpose, Nectar of Devotion is presented for the benefit of all human beings, because we see that in many religions, not pointing any fingers at any of them, but all of them. Basically, in the modern day, the religious principles generally aim at getting some benefit of the material variety, going to a heavenly world to enjoy better. Or, for example, getting some wealth by performing charity and getting some returns. So these are incentives for practicing religious life, but actually the goal of religious life is mentioned in the last line of this, that is being engaged in the eternal, transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. So this is the difference between ordinary religion and actually the eternal principles of engaging ourselves in the loving service of the Supreme Lord, for going back home where we can live eternally in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. So any comments or questions or thoughts on that at all? Anyone would like to share, please? If not, then let's go on to where we left. Yes, they're honored all over the three worlds.
So what are the three worlds, Prabhu?
Okay. In the ordinary sense, there are the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems of the material universe. But there is another sense, which is the material world, the Vaikuntha world, and Goloka Vrindavan. So that is actually the real principle, that the three worlds are something that, as we'll see as we read on in the Nectar of Devotion in later chapters, how even the demigods, they appreciate very much the presence of a devotee. And they actually find that one who is engaged in the loving service of the Lord is worshipable by the demigods. And here's another point as well. When Shukadeva Goswami appeared to give instruction to Maharaj Parikshit on the Srimad Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj, he came to the bank of the Ganges, and different great sages from all over the universe, they came forward to actually honor this wonderful occasion of this great soul, Parikshit Maharaj, going back to Godhead. So the fact of the matter is that they are honored all over the three worlds of the material world, and those who are engaged in the transcendental loving service are worshipable by those in the material world, they're worshipable by those in Vaikuntha, and they're worshipable by those in Goloka Vrindavan. So does that answer your question okay, Rupesh Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so let's go to where we left off last time in the preface, because actually it's a very nice question you were asking. And I was just reading today in the Bhagavatam how Shukadeva Goswami was being received, and everyone was very happy for this event for Shukadeva Goswami to instruct Parikshit Maharaj so that he could go back home, back to Godhead. So can anyone remember some of the points from last week before we go any further? Some of the key points. Narayan Prabhu, if you want to unmute, please. Narayan?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. I mean, I just noted down, so I will quickly go through them. So we discussed like activities performed in personal life, family life, or social life derives some kind of rasas, like a mellow, which is of material happiness, which however is of temporary nature. So mellow or rasa is like it's like some material happiness we get. It's just
Some
happiness.
taste.
Yeah, taste.
Yes.
And then we discussed bhakti rasa, which is like mellow relished in transcendental loving service of Lord, which is everlasting. It does not finish with the end of our life. It continues perpetually and is therefore called amrit. So it's like a permanent. And all the bona fide activities in Krishna consciousness and their permanent result is the subject matter of the nectar of devotion. So one of the point of nectar of devotion, like this book, is like all the bona fide activities which we can perform in Krishna consciousness and their permanent result. That's the subject matter of this book. So that was one of the key point after the rasas. And then adoption of bhakti ras or Krishna consciousness will immediately bring one to the auspicious life free from anxieties and bless one with transcendental existence. So it can produce a feeling of liberation. So we discussed this like permanent liberation, right? That there was one point about people hanker for the liberation. So this bhakti rasa gives it produces a feeling of liberation even in this world itself, like when we are doing devotional service. And why it does so? Because it attracts the attention of the Supreme Lord Krishna. So those were the 2 points about the nectar of devotion after the rasas, bhakti rasa and the temporary material world ras. So
Okay,
those
very
were.
good. Thank you for that. And I have one question for you all. Oh yes, Rupesh, what were you going to say, please, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. I remember that in last session we discussed about Bhog Tyag and Chapal Sukh. So like the flickering pleasures, yeah. So Chapal Sukh, but Bhakti Ras is the permanent bliss, yeah. So permanent happiness actually.
And Bhoga Tyag?
And
Is
Bhog Tyag is the cycle, like trying to enjoy and then renouncing, enjoy and renouncing, like that. But like it's
Posi-
not permanent, you know.
is
So it's like keep on.
position of alternating sense enjoyment and renunciation.
Which
Yes,
leads to frustration.
Yeah.
very much the case. So thank you very much for that. Those are the two things I wanted to mention from last time. Wonderful. Okay, so let's see who'd like to read on. And could we get this text a little bigger, please, Rupesh Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Oh, hang on, Radhika, you wanted to ask something or say something. Or you want to read?
Yes, Prabhuji, I want to read.
Okay, please, go ahead.
Start from here.
The basic principle of the living condition is that we have a general propensity of to love someone. No one can live without loving someone else. This propensity is present in every living being. Even an animal like a tiger has this loving propensity, at least in a dormant stage.
Yeah, dormant means sleeping, maybe not awakened, yeah?
Dormant stage, and it is certainly present in the human beings. The missing point, however, is where to repose our love so that everyone can become happy. At the present moment, the human society teaches one to love his country or family or his personal self, but there is no information where to repose the loving propensity, so that everyone can become happy. That missing point is Krishna. The nectar of devotion teaches us how to stimulate our original love for Krishna, and how to be situated in that position where we can enjoy our blissful life.
Very good, thank you. So that's why we're distributing these books, so that we can help people understand where to repose that natural loving propensity. Because if we want to love someone, at best, what can we hope for in the material world if we love someone?
So sorry, Prabhu, missed the question.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, I missed the last line, Prabhu.
Okay, the question is, what happens in the material world if we try to love someone in the material world? What's the best that can happen? And that definitely will happen.
Either they will go back. I mean, they will die or we will die. But I mean, for the moment they are happy. But either of two things will happen.
Yes, there must be separation, because each of those situations where we try to love someone or something or some creature in this world is temporary at best. But this whole point is to teach us how to awaken from the dormant stage our loving propensity for Krishna. So this is actually what the nectar of devotion is called. And when we talk about Amrita, what is the meaning of Amrita?
Which is permanent, everlasting.
Yes, Mrita means death, and Amrita means there's no death. So that is nectar. Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments on this, please? Okay, who'd like to read on?
Prabhuji, I have one question here. So this line, The missing point, however, is where to repose our love so that everyone can become happy. Yeah. So, I mean, I know this, like some of the answer of it, but like if someone asked me, like who is non-devotee, like non-Krishna consciousness, yeah, person, yeah, then if he asked me that when you love Krishna, how everyone can be happy, if he asked me like that, then what I will answer to him? I know that watering the root of the tree, everything is satisfied, eating the food, and like it goes into belly, and all the body parts get nourished, yeah, but how everyone can be happy, yeah? How can we explain that?
Because the material world, or any world, is actually run under the direction of the Supreme Lord. So we're all getting the necessities of life by the arrangement of the Supreme Lord, or the necessities of life are being withheld as a result of our karmic activity. But actually, when the Sankirtan Yajna, which is the only sacrifice, the only yajna recommended for this age, is performed, then actually the necessities of life are made more and more available in the human society. And when the leaders of the human society, especially, take this responsibility seriously to see that their dependents, the living being, the praja, the people in this world, are actually being properly engaged in this loving service of the Lord in the Sankirtan Yajna, then there's no difficulty in being prosperous and happy with all resources in the material world. Those arrangements are ultimately made by the Supreme Lord. A classic example to help us understand this is the Govardhan Leela. So, who is providing the rain? This is not a matter of simply global warming. That extreme climate event was actually demonstrated under the control of demigods. But people are thinking in ignorance that there is no such thing as demigods or godly control over this world. But they don't realize that actually, as Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, that there's a natural arrangement for cooperation between the men and the demigods and all the facilities of life. So when the Supreme Lord is satisfied, as Krishna points out in the Bhagavad Gita, that the demigods will also bestow upon you all desirable things. And in this way, everyone can actually be happy when the sacrifice is performed nicely for the Supreme Lord. So this is when everyone's happy. And as you rightly pointed out, those two examples, that the sacrifice means that the hand has to sacrifice the food and give it to the mouth. This is something that children have to learn as little babies, because as little babies, they don't know where to put the food. Maybe it's supposed to go here or on the wall or someplace else or on their mother or father. But actually, they have to learn the art of sacrificing the hand, playing with the food to try to squeeze some satisfaction out of it and make a sacrifice and actually put that food in the mouth. And when the mouth is fed, when the stomach is fed, parts of the body are naturally fed. So the principle of how it works in practice is we need to understand how this world is being run. And Krishna is explaining this in Bhagavad Gita, that it's about a cooperation of men and demigods and animals and the performance of sacrifice. So if we perform this Sankirtan Yajna, the broadcasting of the glories of the holy name, of which distributing knowledge, transcendental knowledge, actually, this is Sankirtan Yajna. This is the means by which people can become happy, not simply singing, but explaining actually what is the science of Krishna, what is our relationship with Krishna, how we can understand what we are, what this world is, what nature is, what time is, what our activities are, and who and what is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is Sankirtan Yajna, teaching and distributing this transcendental knowledge and engaging people in the process actively of glorifying the Supreme Lord by hearing about him. Primarily, it begins with the ear and continues with the tongue. As we were discussing the other day, this transcendental knowledge is meant to go in through the ears and go into the heart and then come out through the mouth. This is the process. And that glorification, explaining about Krishna, is Sankirtan Yoga. Getting people to hear about Krishna, whether it's through the holy name, whether it's through appreciating Krishna Prasadam, whether it's through understanding something about Krishna, or actually just hearing a little something about Krishna, chanting, just saying, who is this Krishna? Already people are making progress because they've uttered the holy name of Krishna. So just by doing this, the whole program means that the world has the opportunity to become happy and peaceful. But it's like the owl. The owl doesn't appreciate the sunshine. It closes its eyes during the daylight hours. It can't appreciate the sunshine. So this learning about Krishna means to give up the owl-like propensity of forgetting and ignoring the beautiful radiant light of Krishna, just like we say, this Bhagavat Purana ko dunoditaha. This Bhagavat Purana is as brilliant as the sun. So when we become exposed to this transcendental knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, then actually we're starting to open our eyes and become aware and ready to receive this transcendental knowledge, this blessing from Krishna. So if everyone is agreeable to do this, even if a small percentage of the world's population agrees to take up Krishna consciousness, then the whole world can actually become happy and prosperous. So we have quite a bit of work to do. Is that all right, Rupesh Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Nice question. Good. Any other points anyone would like to raise? Okay, who's going to read the next paragraph for us, please? Amit, Arjun, and Rudrakshi. Who's this? Is this Arjun?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, great. Hare Krishna. Welcome, Arjun. Would you like to read the next paragraph for us, please, Prabhu?
Yes. In the primary stage, a child loves his parents, then his brothers and sisters, and as he daily grows up, he begins to love his family, society, community, country, nation, or even the whole human society. But the loving propensity is not satisfied even by loving all human society, that loving who is supreme beloved.
So hang on, you missed a line there. That loving propensity.
Oh yeah, that loving propensity remains imperfectly fulfilled until we know who is the supreme beloved. Our love can be fully satisfied only when it is reposed in Krishna. This theme is the sum and substance of the nectar of devotion, which teaches us how to love Krishna in 5 different transcendental mellows.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, so some questions or comments on this, please. Why can our love only be fully satisfied when it's reposed in Krishna?
That's because that's our permanent position is like when we are in the devotional service of Krishna as a servant. that's of permanent nature, as well as that's our original position as a souls or as a servants of Krishna. So like that's because that's our natural default position is, and that's when we will start will be fully satisfied when it's service to the Krishna, or to when we start loving to love we have our love for Krishna. So that's because that's our original position is. So one example would be Prabhuji, like Vyasdev wrote all the literature, everything, but unless he described Lord Krishna or his pastimes, he was not satisfied, right? Like that's like a in terms of literature, or you can call it like a thinking about Krishna. So that was his love. Like he was not satisfied even after writing so many books and so many Vedas and everything. But when Narad Muni asked him to write about, so Narad Muni explained him like that's the missing point, that you haven't loved Krishna, or you haven't written anything about Krishna. So that's when Srimad Bhagavatam sort of came into
Yes, it's our constitution, because what is this Jiva soul? It's a little particle of Krishna, little part and parcel of Krishna. And if we understand what we are, just like a child understands at first, yeah, I'm the child of my parents. That's my relationship. And when we understand our constitutional position is that we're eternally related to the eternal Supreme Lord, Krishna, then we can, when we understand that, that's the beginning. Aham Brahmasmi, that I'm spirit soul, that's something, but it's not very much. When we understand what am I supposed to do and learn the science of how to do it, then actually we can taste and realize the sweetness of that loving relationship with Krishna. So this is required, not just the theoretical knowledge, but as Zanussi put it, it's the appliance of science. So we're learning here in this book the science of devotional service to Krishna, how to actually render loving service to Krishna. Hare Krishna, is that Amit? Hare Krishna, Hari Bol. Good to see you, Prabhuji. You're on mute, but thank you for joining us.
Nah. Sorry, I was also cutting some vegetables while I was listening to this whole thing.
Thank you very much. It's good to see you, and very nice to hear from Arjun as well. Okay, so anybody got any more questions or comments on this one paragraph we read there, please?
Guruji, 5 different melodies that we don't know. I don't know personally.
What, transcendental mellows? What is the
5,
meaning?
5 of them, like.
Yes, well, this is what we're going to find out. There
Okay.
are 5 primary mellows. One of them is neutrality. So neutrality means, if you like, passive adoration of Krishna. But that's the first one. And then second is beginning not just passive adoration, but active servant of Krishna. And then the third one is actually friendship with Krishna. And the fourth one is parenthood, where one is able to engage in a loving parental relationship with Krishna. And the fifth one is in a conjugal relationship with Krishna, that of lover and beloved, or husband and wife. So these 5 transcendental mellows we're going to learn about in this Nectar of Devotion. And Lord Chaitanya is giving us the chance to fully develop to the topmost loving mellow, even of conjugal love with Krishna. But we have to learn to walk before we can run. Is that all right?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, very good. Okay, so who'd like to read on?
I have one question here.
Okay,
so the ISKCON devotee, like in what mellow, like they try to please Krishna? In what transcendental mellow? Is it dasyam?
Well, it begins with the dasya rasa, but it all depends on what level of devotional service we've actually developed in our hearts. But practically, it evolves, and we're not in a position at this point in time to know what is our eternal constitutional relationship with Krishna exactly, what sort of mellow is going to be most suitable for us in the spiritual world. But it begins with devotional service according to the rules and regulations of bhakti, that is called the sadhana bhakti, and then it develops to spontaneous loving mood, and from spontaneous loving mood that natural dormant appreciation of Krishna is awakened, and affection, and then attachment, and then actual love for Krishna can develop from there. So it's a gradual process of awakening our eternal dormant relationship with Krishna. Is that all right?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
But in the beginning stage, this is why we'll understand as we go through the nectar of devotion, we'll understand the whole scientific process of practically engaging in loving service to Krishna. Because Rupa Goswami has compiled this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu for our benefit, so we can understand actually how devotional services works and how we can actually apply ourselves and develop our Krishna consciousness. It's not a sentiment, as Prabhupada pointed out so many times. It's actually a science. And this science of nectar of devotional service is being taught in this nectar of devotion. Thank you.
Prabhuji, I have a question.
Okay.
The 5 points that you mentioned like a couple of minutes ago. First one was neutrality. Third one was friendship with Krishna. What was the second and the fourth point?
Okay. First of all, neutrality, passive adoration. Secondly, active service. Thirdly, friendship with Krishna. Fourth is parental love. And fifth is conjugal love.
What is the last one?
Conjugal love, as in love between man and woman. So Krishna, just like we see in Dwarka, Krishna had 16,108 queens who married Krishna. And they each had so many sons and some daughters. And in Vrindavan, Krishna has so many cowherd damsels, the gopis, who are the topmost of all devotees in loving service to Krishna. So here is giving everyone the opportunity to advance to the level of conjugal love with Krishna as the topmost devotees of Krishna. Is that all right?
How do you spell this word conjugal?
C-O-N-J-U-G-A-L. Conjugal.
That's also called Madhurya Ras, Prabhu, isn't it? Madhurya Ras? Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So at first this may seem strange that how one can become an actual lover of Krishna. But as we read through this and as we study also books like Prabhupada's Krishna book, we see how when Krishna appeared in Mathura and then transferred himself to Vrindavan, then how the different relationships with Krishna are unfolded with Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd boys and Krishna's servants like Raktak and others. And in Dwarka also Dauka, Krishna's chariot driver, and how amongst all the many queens of Krishna who are all married to Krishna, and all the cowherd damsels of Braj, how they all wanted to marry Krishna. They had so much natural love for Krishna. So that love is displayed by Krishna's associates, by those who come with Krishna to display these pastimes in this material world. And those who are being elevated to that platform for the first time, they're getting the opportunity to be trained up in that loving service to Krishna. Is that okay? I like your questions. It's good. There is so much to learn. Okay, who'd like to read on then, please? Amit, would you like to read for us, please?
Yes, Prabhuji. So I have to start from here. Okay, fine.
Yes.
Our loving propensity expands just as a vibration of light or air expands, but we do not know where it ends. The nectar of devotion teaches us the science of loving every one of the living entities perfectly by the easy method of loving Krishna. We have failed to create peace and harmony in human society, even by such great attempts as the United Nations, because we do not know the right method. The method is very simple, but one has to understand it with a cool head. The nectar of devotion teaches all men how to perform the simple and natural method of loving Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we learn how to love Krishna, then it is very easy for every living being. It is like pouring water on the root of a tree or supplying food to one's stomach. The method of pouring water on the root of a tree or supplying foodstuffs to the stomach is universally scientific and practical, as every one of us has experienced. Everyone knows well that when we eat something, or in other words, when we put foodstuffs in the stomach, the energy created by such action is immediately distributed throughout the whole body. Similarly, when we pour water on the root, the energy thus created immediately distributed throughout the entirety of even the largest tree. It is not possible to water the tree part by part, nor is it possible to feed the different parts of the body separately. The nectar of devotion will teach us how to turn the one switch that will immediately brighten everything, everywhere. One who does not know this method is missing the point of life.
No, very good. Thank you. So, yes, it's natural that if we love our parents, then we want to actually please our parents. So, if the children are fighting with each other, does that make the parents happy?
No.
Not at all. The parents want the children to exist happily, and the central point is loving their parent. And if they love their parents, naturally they'll understand that all the children are very dear to their parents, and naturally they'll also love them. So this is the central point. And if we miss this point, then we've missed the whole point of the chance, the human form of life. So any thoughts or comments or questions on what we just read, or particular things that struck you?
Prabhuji, I like these two lines a lot, actually. This is so amazing.
Yes, please read it.
The nectar of devotion will teach us how to turn the one switch that will immediately brighten up everything everywhere. One who does not know this method is missing the point of life.
Yes, very nice. So, okay, so we've all got those experiences. So, any questions or comments on this at all, please?
So Prabhu, one quick one. So I think it comes from the world peace, where everyone is trying, like since World War One and then World War Two, and that's how everyone is trying. So I think the main point here is like we try to make world peace or make things really good for everyone, but that never happens because we are missing the whole point, that we are trying to stabilize things, but then because we are not loving Krishna or we are not serving Krishna, all these things keep coming again and again. So that, and then nectar of devotion will teach us this is like one switch which will, like once everyone or most of us start serving Krishna or loving Krishna, that's when that's what it is explained, I guess, like what nectar of devotion will do when everyone reads it, understands it, or start working on it. The other point I'm just trying to understand was like maybe really pessimistic, like you mentioned, right? Even if few devotees or few of us do good things will be a whole world will change, and same thing is explained here as well, I guess. But I mean, sometimes I feel like few incorrect people or few bad people makes the world or the like lot of good devotees or lot of good people, for example, and something everything goes good, it's all well and great, but very few of them goes bad, and then that's when the whole society starts falling down or whole community starts falling down. So how to understand, like, I mean, like in this world, like nations are selfish, people are selfish, communities are selfish, then as a Krishna conscious person or the community, how we should sort of contemplate this thought that okay, we should, I mean, of course we will try and give it to whole world, like what are the basic principles are, but like how we should convince ourselves that this is the important point, and one day or other they will understand, like whoever is very selfish, like communities or countries, in fact.
Okay, well, the first point is that people don't know how to be selfish because they don't know who they are. If we don't know what our real self is, how
Yeah,
can we be really selfish? If we don't know what our real self is, how can we know what our self-interest is? So the first thing is enlightenment, to understand, just like where does Krishna begin in Bhagavad Gita? He begins by explaining the difference between the body and the soul and explaining what the self actually is, that the self is a jiva soul. And what is that self is gradually explained, that that self is a little particle of the Supreme Lord. And that this world is placed in such a way so that we can gradually come to the conclusion of our eternal relationship with Krishna. And if we miss this really crucial point where Krishna explains this in the Bhagavad Gita, that actually the self is the spirit soul, then how can we actually see that we have the same Father? If we don't understand that we actually have the same Father, then how can we understand that we're actually brothers and sisters? For example, the whole communist idea that we're all brothers and sisters is missing the central point, that the only way we can actually be all brothers and sisters if we all share the same Father. If this isn't understood, then what is the question of brotherhood? But when that point is understood, then brotherhood becomes very easy and very real and very practical to understand. So regarding the difficulty in managing the world, because the resources are all there, just like you see so much aid is required to send to different parts of the world. There is plenty of food, but the leaders are actually misleaders. They're actually withholding the supplies that are God-given to the people that require them. It's not that the food supplies and water supplies are not there, but the mismanagement of the misleaders who don't know what is the point of human life means that they're mismanaging the whole situation, because they don't understand who is providing all the necessities of life and what is the value of the human life, or what they are or who they are, or how they can actually successfully guide all the people who they're supposed to be seeing that can successfully live happily in this world, because they misunderstand themselves as thinking aham mameti, I'm this temporary body. They think that satisfying their own temporary bodies to the exclusion of everyone else's body is actually the success of life. And as a result of this ignorance, then people are suffering. The world is suffering because of ignorance. That is the real point. So the whole point is that people have to become aware of their spiritual identity. Because if we understand our spiritual identity as spirit soul, then the question is, well, why am I an eternal spirit soul? Because you're a little particle, part and parcel of the supreme spirit soul. And if I'm a little part and parcel of the supreme spirit soul, I'm eternal and the supreme soul is eternal, then we have an eternal relationship. And the whole process of bhakti is actually how to awaken and revive and develop to the perfectional stage, that relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the chance, that is the gift of the human form of life. And if this human form of life is wasted by not being utilized for that purpose and simply being engaged in the animal propensity, then if one is only developing the animal propensities, then one can only expect to get another animal birth and again go down through all the species. So we've evolved. If we understand the very simple principle that Krishna is explaining in Bhagavad Gita, 84 lakhs of species of life, and that we've evolved now after a great deal of suffering to the human form of life, if we misuse it, even after that evolution, there can be devolution. And we can again revolution, revolving through the 8,400,000 species of life again and again. But in all the species of life, the necessities of life are provided. And who is providing that? That is Krishna. He's providing us whatever we want. This world is like an open hotel. You can have whatever species of life you want, and you'll still get all the facilities, whatever you want. If you want to be a dictator, you can be a dictator. If you want to be a hog or a dog or a cat or a bird or a fish or an insect or a mosquito, whatever you want to be, you can be. But the point is that that's not our actual identity. These are simply designations covering the soul. But in every species of life, they're all spirit souls like you and me, living in a different type of body. But without becoming aware of this, then we're missing our golden opportunity to understand how to live successfully and actually understand the value of this human form of life. So we have the chance. And if we miss this chance, we won't even understand how to live happily in this world, what to speak of the next.
Yes, true.
And it doesn't take too much examination to see with any news report how this world is becoming more and more terrible, actually horrifying. And it's just a matter of time before it catches up with us here in sunny England. It's going crazy in all different parts of the world, but it's also going crazy here in sunny UK. And things are getting more and more disastrous as we go on day by day. And it won't get any better unless mankind is able to wake up to its real purpose of existence. And therefore, we have a lot of education to do. We have a lot of distributing this literature and a lot of understanding this literature and a lot of explaining this literature to others so that people can take advantage of this, so their whole human life won't be spoiled. But as Krishna points out in his Bhagavad Gita, even if one makes a little progress on this path, that is not lost. But at the time of death, everything else is lost. But any progress someone has made in Krishna consciousness, in developing their Krishna consciousness, Krishna promises in that endeavor there's no loss or diminution. It's permanent gain. So why should we be satisfied with just a little bit of gain if we're intelligent? Because naturally people want to develop their assets. So we should try to develop our spiritual assets as much as possible and become perfectly situated in our real happiness, our real wealth, which is love of Krishna.
Yes,
So
bro.
any thoughts or comments or questions on that?
Prabhuji, what does ahamameti mean?
I'm sorry, say again.
What does ahamameti mean?
Aham mameti.
Aham mameti. Aham means I, and mameti means and this body, this temporary body. Thank you. That's a good question. I assumed people would know, but my foolishness is there. Aham
So
mameti.
aham mameti means, Prabhu, that we are thinking that I am this temporary body and I'm just thinking about me and my things. Yeah.
Yeah, I, me, and mine.
Okay. Okay.
But aham brahmasmi is the step up where one understands I'm actually a spirit soul. And that's the beginning. But then if I'm a spirit soul, what am I supposed to do? Radhika, did you want to say some more on this?
No, Prabhuji.
Is that all right?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Do you know what the spirit soul is like?
Size. Do you know the size of spirit soul? 1 by 10,000.
1 by 10,000 of the tip of the hair.
Yeah, it's pretty tiny. But we can have an idea of that because in this whole universe, one tiny sun is illuminating the entire universe.
Yes.
And in the same way, one tiny spirit soul is illuminating the entire body with consciousness, whether it's in the body of an ant or an elephant. Hare Krishna, Sunil Bhai. Hare Krishna. You're on mute.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can I ask a question?
Sorry, yes, please.
Just like a couple of minutes ago, you mentioned about developing spiritual assets, not the material assets. The material assets could be like, you have a house, you have a car, you have a little bit of bank balance. But how are the spiritual assets? Can you give us some examples?
Yes, yes. The temporary material assets will all be finished with the body. But the spiritual assets are actually awakening our consciousness of our eternal existence and our eternal relationship with Krishna. And as we see that people can actually begin to be naturally attracted to wanting to love Krishna, wanting to serve Krishna, those are spiritual assets which can be awakened in this life and we bring with us from our previous lives. So, for example, being born in India, there's a natural interest in Krishna. That's a fact. Simply by virtue of the fact that one has been fortunate enough to continue one's previous spiritual progress and take birth in a land where spiritual advancement is understood as a basic principle of life. So that is not by accident, that is by divine arrangement, so that one can continue from where one left off in one's previous life. So those are spiritual assets, and those assets, Krishna says, are never lost. Is that all right? Does that make some sense?
No, it does. It does. Definitely. Yeah, no, that's fine. I understand more clearly now.
Prabhuji, here like we can relate to the story of Bharat Maharaj.
Yes. You would like to say?
Yes, Prabhu, like in our Bhakti Vriksh class, we had discussed actually. So Bharat Maharaj, when he died, like although he was doing bhakti, but he was very attached to a deer. And then at the Ant Kalecha Mame Vesparan Muktva Kalevaram, he was thinking about deer and he became deer in his next birth. But God protected his consciousness. And the deer also has, like all the Krishna consciousness in it actually. So he had proper consciousness. And once the deer left his body, then this time he took birth as Jad Bharat in a Brahman family. And from that body, he was very sure that this time he doesn't need to, he won't commit any mistake. And then, like he followed all the religious principle, Krishna consciousness, and then went back to Godhead. So this way, like there is no loss or diminution in this path actually when we are doing bhakti.
Yes, even if by attachment we may make some temporary detour from the human form of life, still, whatever progress we've made in Krishna consciousness is not lost, and we'll have the opportunity to revive it. Just like it may be seen that sometimes by making an offense against, for example, another devotee, that progress in spiritual life can be checked. But when the effects of that offense have worn off, then one can again continue from the point where he left off in his previous life. So there's no loss. But the idea is to make gradual, steady progress throughout our lives and come to the successful conclusion that we can think of Krishna at the time of death. And a classic example for me is a friend of mine. His name was Chaitanya Nitai. He made nice progress in his life, and then at the time of his departure from this world, he was accompanied by so many devotees. We were all there by his bedside, and I noticed this personally, that just before he left his body, he sat up and he was gazing with such intense eyes at this beautiful picture next to him of Radha Krishna performing Rasa Leela. And I've never seen anyone stare with such intensity, but it's described in the Krishna book, the way a dying man sees a picture of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he left his body at that moment with that intensity. And Krishna promises in Bhagavad Gita that one who quits the body thinking of me alone, he at once attains to my nature. He says, of this there is no doubt. So this is the practical point, that we can bring our consciousness to the point where we can think of Krishna even in spite of the most difficult situation, when the body is all breaking down and giving us so much trouble. That by practice of Krishna consciousness, always remembering Krishna, because it boils down to two regulative principles. Does anyone know what these two regulative principles are? Narayan, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
I'm not sure I'm correct, Prabhuji, but the one thing the thought came like, always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. I don't know if that's the correct one.
That's it. That's it. That's the ultimate two devotional principles, to always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. So as we develop our Krishna consciousness, and we always see the form of Krishna, we hear about Krishna, we engage in the service of Krishna, we chant Hare Krishna, we accept only food which has first been offered to Krishna, we try to keep association with Krishna's devotees. All the time we can develop our Krishna consciousness, so that the time of leaving this body, naturally we think of Krishna and we don't ever want to forget him. So this is the perfection, because then we go home, and actually, as Krishna promises in Bhagavad Gita, that we should try to understand in truth this transcendental knowledge. In chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna makes this point very, very clear. And this is, one time Brahmananda Swami told me that this is one of the most important verses in Bhagavad Gita. He says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvata tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti ma meti sojana. One who knows in truth the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities in this world never takes birth again, but he comes to me, Arjuna. So how much we should be interested to try to understand the truth of Krishna. And therefore this information is being freely given. Please try to hear about Krishna, study this literature, associate with devotees, chant Hare Krishna, be happy, and go back home, back to Godhead.
Prabhuji, please can I recite the shloka?
Go for it.
Janma karma cha me divyam एवं यो वेति तत्त्वतः भक्त्वा देहं पुनर्जन्म नैति मां वेति सोऽर्जुन.
Yes. And can you recite the translation for us, please?
One who knows the
transcendental
nature of
my appearance
activities
and activities
does not upon leaving the body
take birth again,
but attains
my spiritual,
my
eternal
abode.
Yes, Arjuna.
Yes, this is a fact. And veti tattvata means knows in truth. So not just theoretically, but clearly actually understanding this very nicely. So this is very good. Thank you. Okay, good. So any other comments or questions on this? I know we're already reached our 7:30 time, but we've had some very good questions and comments on this. Anybody like to make any last question?
Yeah.
Yes, Sunil Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. There's just one little thing on 4.3 of the Bhagavad Gita I thought I'd just like to share. Even those who are considered the most immoral or all sinners can cross over this ocean of material existence by seating themselves in the boat of divine knowledge. Then I was thinking about all these things. Then it says the misery of the body is one, misery of your own mind, and misery due to other living entities. And then obviously it's all temporary and it's an ocean of misery.
Yes. So these things, every one of us in this material world is actually in a suffering condition because of our previous karma. So every one of us may be considered very sinful because we've been forced to take another material body. So no matter how sinful, if we're situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, we can cross over this ocean of material existence. So therefore, it's a good idea. Thank you very much, Sunil Prabhu. Sunil is a master. He's been following this Krishna consciousness movement for quite a few years. And these other devotees that you see here, they're from, well, Amit, Arjun, and Rudrakshi, they're in Bristol. And, and Rupesh and Narayan and Radhika are in Swindon. So, and also just come on the screen is Vrinda Ishika. So, Prashant, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Prabhuji, I was listening to all these things, and then one question came into my mind. Like all these years, like we were born and raised by hearing from our parents, like do good deeds, do good karma, and pray to God. So one question comes, and until we come to know about all these things related in Bhagavad Gita and Krishna consciousness. But for example, Prabhuji, if a person is there who does all good deeds, good karma all his life, but he doesn't practice his Krishna consciousness, so he will still take birth again. Yeah?
Yes, because karma is the law of cause and effect, action and reaction. So whether you have good karma or bad karma or mixed karma, you have to take the reactions, and so you have to take another body. But Krishna's point at the end conclusion of Bhagavad Gita is if you simply take to Krishna consciousness and surrender to me, I'll wipe clean the whole slate of your karma, and I'll protect you from all your sinful reactions.
Okay. Yeah.
So he says, don't be afraid.
Okay.
So this is the point. Just simply generating good karma means you're guaranteed to develop another birth.
Oh.
You don't know which species because you might be born, like for example, you might have developed very nice karma. My brother and sister-in-law, they live in a very nice house, and they had a very beautiful big dog. So the dog was simply enjoying having the run of the house while the owners were going out to work very hard every day. You can have the body of a dog and get so much happiness in the form of a dog. You can get that good karma, but it's not a very good birth, and it's not a good opportunity for understanding the human form of life. Is that all right?
Yes, Prabhuji, I understand. Like, so even if you do good karmas, like, there's no guarantee that you will not take rebirth. You have to practice Krishna consciousness, definitely, with good deeds plus Krishna consciousness.
And even if by the performance of so much pious punya, so much good karma, you go and take birth in the heavenly planets, you have to live there for a long time. But when the karmic bank account is finished, then again you have to come back and take birth in the human form of life again. So it hasn't solved the problem.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
come and
Prabhuji,
get
I
some.
understand. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like you go on holiday, and when you've got no more money, you have to come back home again.
yeah, Prabhuji.
So
Yeah,
the point is that not having to take birth again and again and again, because on every planet, Krishna says, from Brahma's planet, from the highest planet down to the lowest planet in the material world, all of them are places of misery where repeated birth and death take place. So we can understand from the Shastra how the demigods have a very nice standard of enjoyment, but it's not that there's no trouble. They have to fight with so many demons. They still have old age, and they still have disease, and they still have death, and it hasn't solved the problem of having to take birth again. Is that
yeah,
okay?
yeah, Prabhuji, I understand. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Good. Okay, thank you. Good. Okay, Narayan, you have your hand raised. I can see we've got a few more questions coming up. Good.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Just a quick one. So Sunil Bhai, is he from like joins from UK only? We are meeting him first time. So where he's from?
I'm sorry, say again. I didn't understand the question.
I'm from Leicester,
Leicester,
UK.
Leicester only. No, we are being introduced to Sunil Bhai Prabhu first time. So I was just checking where he's
Yeah,
from,
Hare
and he's
Krishna.
from Leicester only. So that's great. Just wanted to share one quick reflection, Prabhu. Like, thank you for explaining, like in answer to Amit Prabhu's question, how seriously we should take this book, as well as learning and teaching of understanding Krishna and serving Krishna. And like you explained, like the spiritual assets, they are always there, like you explained with your friend's example, as well as at the time of death or in any kind of pain, how, why and how we should remember Krishna, like in happiness, as well as during like having some miseries in terms of bodily miseries. So I mean, just wanted to share, like Rupesh Prabhu and I sort of witnessed that in the hospital when we were with you. And like you had so much pain, you were going through so much of it, like I haven't personally, I haven't seen anyone else, like. So that's the, like whatever you were saying today, you sort of showed us or demonstrated it to Rupesh Prabhu and me, and maybe others as well noticed that. But yeah, whatever you just explained, it was just that real example where you've been through so much pain and you were still remembering Krishna. You are doing service for Krishna or the devotees, or for betterment of all the devotees across the world. So just wanted to sort of reflect upon that whatever you are saying is just sort of you showed us to all of us, in fact. So thank you so much for all that and all the details in the every Tuesday. Everyone is looking forward to your sessions, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Haribol. Well, the real example for me is how Prabhupada left his body. Because when Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, up to his last, he was still using the dictaphone to translate the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he hadn't eaten anything for weeks. And he was incredibly weak. And he was just trying his very best to teach by his own example how to leave this world, always remembering Krishna, always being engaged in loving service to Krishna, and keeping the heart and mind focused on Krishna. So this is the business of life. So thank you very much indeed. Hare Krishna. So we can meet again next week for Nectar of Devotion, 6:30, same time, same place.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you all very much indeed. And Sachin, we can see you at last. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranam. Sorry Prabhuji, I was in the office call. Okay, but yeah, I joined this around 15 minutes before, so yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, anyway, whenever possible, it's really nice to have you all on board, and I hope that the questions and answers have been useful. And Amit, you have your hand raised, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, the Gita org project, I subscribed online by clicking on and giving my email ID. Email has been received, but then I never had this from that okay, the next distributed. So no one contacted me for that. Is that you guys?
Okay, I'll tell you what, Amit Prabhu. I will contact you personally after this is over. Can I give you a call and we can discuss how to organize and take that further forward? Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, because I don't understand the process, but I can talk you through so that the whole thing works very easily. And I can give you all the direct details to make it very simple. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I did go and deliver 2 Gita books, Gita packages today in Bristol, and I have
Wow.
so I'll do that in this week. But yeah, if you want, you can the Bristol area. You can ask me to deliver, and I'll be more than happy to deliver in and around Bristol.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much indeed, Prabhu. That's really wonderful news. So really appreciate your endeavors and everyone who's been working hard to distribute this transcendental knowledge to give people a chance to understand about Krishna, even in spite of their really dreadful conditions of life that they're experiencing in these care homes. I myself have got about 160 deliveries to do again this week. I got my car full of boxes of bags of books. So I'll give you a call a bit later, Prabhu, and explain how it works. But the easy thing is I'll give you the actual bank account details of the Gita project, and then you can set everything up yourself directly from there, if that's okay with you, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, I have already set it up by on my bank details, and I have set up a direct debit. But my only concern was that I have not received any instructions from you or whoever is responsible that okay, the next lot of delivery in and around Bristol areas and so date. So if I could make any arrangements, so I have done everything over here. I have done that, but
Okay.
I was just for the next a task that will be given to me.
Okay, well, I'm very glad you're so eager to receive this. I don't know myself when the next ones around Bristol will be. That's not in my hand. That's in the hands of the devotees in East London who are Radha and Nikunja who are organizing these things. So, but as soon as we have some more for your part of the world, I'll be only too delighted to make sure that you get first crack at it. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Prabhu. That's wonderful news. And with that, I think it's probably time to say goodnight until next time. But in the meantime, if you have my contact details, if you want to ask any questions or discuss anything, please do feel free to get in touch. I'd be delighted to hear from you and share with you. So thank you all very much indeed. So one thing we can do to say goodbye is offer these humble prayers to the Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. And thank you all so much for your enthusiasm for sharing Krishna consciousness. It's very warming to my heart. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare
Take
Krishna.
care, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thanks for
Hare
allowing me
Krishna.
to join.
Yes. Haribol.
Very well.
Haribol.
Wake up.